Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to the TheSTiKSLive. This is something that we haven't done, I think, in a very, very long time. I'm gonna let Landon explain why this is a YouTube video and we're not streaming it.
Yes.
But just before I start, yeah, we've had a few problems, but we're basically gonna kind of hopefully perform a show in essence, but obviously without the live part. That's why you're watching this on YouTube. But Landon, you're the person to explain. Yeah, it's Landon's fault, but at the same time it's not. I'll let you explain why we didn't end up recording and live streaming the show on Monday.
So what exactly happened is that there's a bunch of snow going on in North America or just the United States in general. I got the back end of it. I didn't get as much as like the East Coast did because they got like 20, like there's like I think some places got like 18, 20 inches of snow. I didn't get that, but the snow and the ice that did come from the beginning of that storm, which hit me because I'm in the middle of the United States, unfortunately, like cut down some power lines, like messed them up. So to replace those, and then obviously rendered me powerless. Which I think the worst part about it was, Tom, was that it would come on and then it would come back off. Like it was like
we had
there, and then it would just decline. Right
what was it? Just so you obviously came home from I think school, and you're like, look, I got a power cut. I didn't realize, and this was 20 minutes before the show, and then I think closer to the actual time of recording, you DM me saying, "Oh, I've got power. Send me the link for the Zoom." And then just as like I was
so hyped. I was like, "Yes, it just came on." And then as I'm booting up my computer, I think I was using my phone to DM you because it hadn't been up yet, and it just goes.
Yeah.
I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like this is.
So when did you end up getting power? Was it later that night?
It was really late that night, around like I want to say like 7 or 8 my time. Like it was like it kept coming on, and then for like an hour it was stable. Then it turned off again, and then it came back on, and it's been on ever since. So as far as I know, and I swear to God, if anything happens while we're recording this, I'm actually gonna freak out. I don't think anything's gonna happen.
Well, you probably wouldn't be watching this if something did happen. So let's put it that way.
Not,
so, but right, let's get into the show. So obviously it's slightly different to normal because we actually have no goalie. It's like we've lost our father. Can someone just like take us to the end of like the shopping aisle and just like go on the announcer and just be like, "Can Mr. Goalie come to aisle 5, please?" Because that's what it feels like. But we're going to start by talking about the CWL. It's kind of weird because we're currently in the middle of the second day of matches, but we're going to do our best job of kind of talking about the league standings and what went on yesterday. I think we'll kick things off with North America because that's primarily probably what you want to see. Do you want to talk us through the standings so far?
Yes, I will do that for you, Mr. Tom. Like Tommy said, to reiterate really quickly, we are currently in week 3, but we're going to go over week 2's matches, and then for next week's show, we'll recap what happened and what we're watching now.
Otherwise, we're out of sync. It completely ruins our schedule otherwise, but hopefully...
I ruined it. I ruined it all. I did. I apologize.
At least we're still recording a video. So.
It's true. It's true. So... as far as Tuesday's matches went for the NA side of things, we had FaZe going up against Envious when FaZe would take that one 3-1. We also had H2K at the time, or excuse me, H2K versus TK, in which that went a 3-0. We had Luminosity, who went up against, at the time, question mark. I'm not sure if we have graphics or not because the team actually changed, which we'll talk about, on which question mark the roster at the time won that one in a Game 5. We had Rise Nation going up against Opt Gaming, in which Opt Gaming won 3-1. And then as far as the 8 p.m. match went for the second one, we had Elevate going up against CLG, in which Elevate would win that one 3-1. And then for our last matchup on Tuesday, we had Complexity going up against Dream Team, in which that was forced to a Game 5, where Cole would win that one as well. So that's just kind of how it went.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over Wednesday's matches? Or you want to talk about Tuesday's ones?
I think let's talk about Tuesdays because like there's a couple matches that I want to bring up. I mean, it's quite nice that you're NA, I'm Europe, because you can ask me questions and vice versa. I can ask you. So with this question mark versus LG match, like for me going into it, I don't know if I would have. I just don't know because they're looking at them in the table. They're both kind of down near the relegation zone. Luminosity in it. I don't know. I almost expected more things out of LG at the start of the season. I mean, they have played Complexity and FaZe week 1, what were very hard, tough matchups. So, but to lose the Rush 3-2, I don't know. That comes as a bit of a shock to me.
Yeah, I think honestly, like Luminosity started the season really good. I think did they 3-0 Cole off the start. I think that's what I think they had like a really good start versus Cole. They beat them either way.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Luminosity's not a team to mess with. And then they go and face, different team. I think they ended up placing against FaZe, where they lost. And then obviously this loss also kind of brought them down to my level of thinking, well, what, like, no offense, but Question Mark is kind of considered to be like a bottom tier team, like maybe even like in the bottom 4 technically as far as like their roster talent kind of goes.
Yeah.
And for Luminosity to kind of go from one high to a very, very low, definitely surprised me. And in the game 5, as well, it wasn't like a 3-0, thank God for Luminosity's sake, but either way, it was Question Mark. I know it's considered rush, like we said. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it was then with the victory. One thing that I also want to bring up was the amazing first match that we had that went on between FaZe and Envy. Like, there was so much hype around that because technically, I mean, you can kind of compare Optic and FaZe to the top 2 teams right now, and Envy is kind of in that 3rd, 4th spot. Kind of just hitting those guys at the top, like, we're still here, like, we're still a good team. But FaZe ended up winning that one 3-1, looking pretty good. Like, FaZe is kind of scary, to be honest. Like, I look at FaZe and how confident they are when they play teams. It's like absolutely absurd how, like, they're literally calling out everyone else's mistakes. Like, that's how free they feel to be.
Yeah, when a team's doing that, that they're very confident, to say the least. Apart from that, though, I think the rest of the results were unreally surprising. I've got to say, H2K are really impressing me. They're at the moment sitting towards the top side of the table, and yeah, I think that they're a team that I think underestimated coming into this league. Absolutely, and they're performing well, so props to them. But so going into the second day of matches, I want to highlight a couple of matches because I think I have to highlight the CLG TK match. After TK lost to H2K 3-0, losing again to CLG, a team that again is in the bottom 4, and ideally, like, that's a big matchup in terms of 2 teams at the bottom of the league needing to really win that. Like, what is going on with TK? It's like they're mimicking what we saw in the MLG Pro League throughout Ghost and Advanced Warfare.
Definitely. I think, honestly, like, looking at CLG and TK, they kind of have a similar play style in the fact that both of them aren't really that talented in Search and Destroy, so it kind of comes down to the hard point for those two.
Yeah.
In which, I mean, I think the team, honestly, that wins the hard point kind of declares what's going to go on for the rest of the series, in which CLG obviously won that game. And I believe they also won the Search and Destroy. CLG is a pretty good Search and Destroy team. That's definitely TK's probably one of their worser game types, that I think along with CTF. So I didn't obviously come to a CTF, but CLG, I mean, they're a pretty good team. They're not like by any means like an incredible, good roster, but they're pretty good at hardpoint. I know we actually saw them play against Elevate before, and Elevate was actually predicted to win the hardpoint, which I wouldn't have agreed with. But either way, CLG absolutely destroyed them. And Elevate's a pretty decent hardpoint team. So
yeah,
I think, honestly, like, looking at these two teams, you might just say one team's highly, their roster's more known than the other, being TK, how well known the players are. But as far as like their likenesses go, like, CLG is just slightly better than TK at kind of everything that they kind of come up against.
But the reality is, I mean, if TK keep losing, like, I know it's early days, and I don't want to I don't want to count them out already, but if they keep getting 3-0'd in these matchups that are meant to be actually quite intense, actually meant to be quite close because they're around the same places as CLG in the leaderboard at the moment. Like, I can only think bad things are going to happen for TK and their roster, but I don't know. It's like they're
struggling.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's like, looking at it, it's not looking good because, I mean, if you're getting 3-0'd, like, if it's a 3-2 you can understand it, but if it's a 3-0'd by a team that is in relegation as well, that's saying something to me. That's kind of putting off alarm bells in TK's minds, I can imagine. But
100%.
Other than that matchup, I think OG beating LG, no real surprise. Envy beating Rush, again, no real surprise. Elevate Rise, that's one of probably the highlight matchups, I'd probably say, from the second day. Rise taking that 3-1. FaZe beating DET, no real surprise there. And Cole going up against H2K, another matchup that I'd probably highlight there. Are you surprised by Cole taking out H2K 3-1 there?
I think that was kind of like, in some ways, there are so many matches where it's like a major defining moment. I think that one was for sure a defining moment in realizing where, like, players, where teams kind of are on the entire ladder. And that was obviously I believe that was H2K's first loss they received was at the hands of Complexity.
Looking at it, yeah. So, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, Complexity are... Yeah. I'm still yet to kind of make a overall judgment on Complexity because they're kind of that mid-table team at the moment, and it's hard for me to judge whether they've just kind of been underperforming or if it's online the reason that they've been doing bad, or just maybe they are just a team that is going to, not get relegated, but they're just going to be around maybe 6th, 7th, or 8th. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it's hard to say because, like, H2K, like, they started off really well. Like, they're a good team, and I know I constantly say, like, you can't count out H2K. They're a good roster, and they are. but it's like I don't know where
it's complexity. Look at the players on that roster. It's like how can you
like they went to game 5 with DT, and DT hadn't even won a game at that point.
Yeah, that is true.
Cole's definitely like kind of they're kind of, I would say, flirting with like the top 4, and they're kind of flirting with like the bottom 5. I guess you could say, like constantly. Like,
I like that analogy.
The worst team in the game, and then a team who was 3-0, they beat them 3-1. Like it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know. It just was kind of surprising, but I think that kind of, I mean, it really does it for the recap for that. But I mean, honestly, like you said, the other matches, CLG 3-0 and TK, which you talked about. I mean, were you surprised at all that we saw 3-0 against Luminosity for OG? I mean,
it's one of those things where it's like I could justify a 3-1, but at the same time I can understand a 3-0, if that makes sense. It's like with how OG can play, and they've clearly carried through what they had at the end of Advanced Warfare into Black Ops 3, and that's why I think they're undefeated so far in the league. So it's not surprising whatsoever. But as you said, I think that pretty much wraps up what we had from last week. I think we'll quickly go over Europe for anyone that did care. It's my bread and butter. And
all right. I'm gonna be asking you some questions here. I'm excited for this.
I'm gonna get uncomposed and panic and sweat and.
I gotta make sure that I keep going over to the left. I keep going over here. Before the show, me and Tommy were talking about how Goalie apparently gave this graphic to use because he's currently covering league matches and stuff. We have to be like over here when we're talking, or I don't know where I'm at. Like I don't know if I'm out of the box.
You're fine, right way. Sit up straight, and you're fine right there. Yeah. So basically. The middle of my camera is about here, in line right there. But because Goalie didn't give me a 16:9 graphic, or in terms of the overlay, we're just having to make do. So basically, Landon's having to shuffle across.
I would normally sit. I would normally sit like right here. So I'm completely. I have no idea where I am.
And if you'll see what on the video, you're completely out of frame. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. Just a little bit of amusement between the two of us. Yeah. So on the Tuesday last week, most of the matchups were there was one big, like highlighted matchup in my opinion. What was the Splice versus Infuse matchup? But other than that, everything. Looking at it, I would have predicted it to go one way or another pretty clearly, but it didn't. What was the weird thing? I mean, starting off with LDLC versus Vitality, I would have honestly said Vitality should win that after their performance against Millennium and their performance against Pulse, 2-0 going into week 2. Wasn't to be. LDLC won that 3-1, picking up their first victory. That was a bit of a surprise. Then XL versus Giants. Again, Giants going 0-2 first week.
Is that a big deal though? Because I mean, XL,
Yes,
is that a big deal? Because I was curious because I'm not sure how good Giants is. I mean, looking at their record, they're 1-2, and it's fine. But like, I mean, you guys have played some really good. And I say you guys because obviously Tommy's a part of XL. For those who may not know, of course. But I mean, I'm curious because it's like right now, as far as XL goes, I see them being definitely like a top team.
Yeah.
But I mean, losing the Giants, it's like I see kind of in the similar position to how Cole is, where they can beat some of the top teams. But when you kind of go to those game 5s, it's kind of like an issue. I'm not sure. And I wasn't really sure where to kind of compare Giants at, if they're like kind of a bottom 4 team or if they're kind of in the midst, kind of like I said earlier. Like
that makes sense.
Top teams too. I wasn't sure. Though.
I think it's a case of, in my mind at least, I mean, this is just, it's purely opinion. Obviously, someone watching this is going to have a completely different perspective. But Giants, in my mind, are a team that honestly may struggle to get out of relegation. I see the teams that will probably stay and go to playoffs will probably be Vitality, Splice, Infuse, XL, Millennium, and Epson. What's funny enough how the actual league is at the moment as we're recording this. And yeah, for them to, I think it's a case of XL obviously went 2-0 week 1. From speaking in the chat and stuff, they may have got a little overconfident, maybe didn't practice as much as they should have, etc. You know, you could make whatever excuse, but the overall factor is they lost to Giants 3-2 in realistically a way that they really shouldn't have lost. So yeah, in my mind, it's a mistake. Like I feel like they shouldn't have lost it, but it is what it is. It's happened. You can't really make excuses for it. I mean, as you said, maybe Giants are yet to show their full potentially, but to me, at the time and period of when it happened, after they went 0-2, and I think they went 0-6 in map count as well. I'm just checking. Yeah, they did. They went 0-6 first week as well. I didn't expect them to come out and do that. I mean,
absolutely.
The first hard point was really, really close, and they could have potentially taken that. It could have been a 3-1 victory to them, so it could have been even worse on XL's side.
Right.
But with that being said,
stunning factors, yeah. And by the way, I want to bring up something really fast too, because looking at that first game before actually the XL and Giants game, was LDLC actually taking out Vitality, and they had actually completely separate records up to that point.
Yeah,
and I know LDLC, who kind of been like a really struggling roster. I believe they're also a French team as well. So
yeah, both French.
Right, so it was kind of like the clash of one of the better French teams versus kind of like the lower echelon when it comes to French squads. And seeing LDLC walk away with that game, I wasn't able to watch that game, but just kind of seeing the scoreboard, I wasn't for sure if you were able to watch that one, or what kind of went wrong, I guess.
Well, this is the thing, because on a Tuesday I get home just after I get home, I think around about 4 o'clock, and the matches in my time start 3 o'clock, so I think I just missed it. But I would definitely say, just not knowing kind of really what went on, I'm definitely surprised it was 3-1 in favour of LDLC because of how Vitality performed in that week 1, going 2-0. I'm not going to say Vitality are going to contend for finishing first in the league, but they're definitely a team that I would expect to not get relegated. So in that sense, I think LDLC picking up that victory is huge.
And I'm just looking more at some of these other games. Epsilon beating TCM, not really that big of a surprise.
Nope.
At the time, Epsilon's still 3-0, as we're currently watching and going over this right now. Splice actually taking out Infuse. That was a pretty big game. Like Infuse, can they bring it back? Splice looking fairly solid up at this point. But Splice just comes out in 3-0s Infuse. It was like we saw one amazing tier from Infuse in the beginning. I think we actually watched a tournament with Infuse, and they absolutely destroyed. And then now they're kind of, I mean, not that they should have lost. I mean, I think honestly losing to Splice is by no means like you're going down with your head, like you're not going down like going home with your heads down type of thing. Like, because Splice is a good team. Yeah, getting 3-0, like that's kind of like raises Splice's overall like worth up so much more.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, I mean, Infuse have been teaming for what, since like September or something. They've been teaming way back into AW. People don't, I think, realize this. And for them to get beaten 3-0, I know it's on a complete different set. It's a bit weird. I honestly didn't see it coming. Especially, I obviously went to Amity Pro 3 at the very start of Black Ops 3, and they, I think, beat Millennium in the winners bracket final, then played them. They did end up losing the event to Millennium, coming second. But the way they were playing was absolutely crazy. Now, I know, obviously, sometimes it doesn't transfer across LAN and online, but I was really shocked to see that they got just straight up 3-0s. I do remember, I think, watching the match, and I think Infuse were having a bit of an off day looking at it. I think Splice were just playing out of their socks. I think it just comes down to that, because that wasn't the Infuse I'm used to seeing, let's put it that way. And I don't think it was the fact that, like, I don't want to discredit Splice, but I think it was partly to do with Infuse maybe not playing as well as they can, and also to do
like a weak Infuse. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. But 3-0 is definitely a shock in my opinion. I always thought it was going to be a close matchup. That was definitely the one that was going to be close, but to be a 3-0 was, it was a bit like, hang on, is that the right results? Have they made an error or something? But other than that, I think Splice, I mean, they're a good team, as I say. They're like a Vitality, probably better in my opinion. But I expected more out of Infuse, to say that. But last match was Millennium versus Pulse, where
wonder who's gonna win that one.
Yeah, right? It's
against DT.
So we've just watched Splice versus Pulse on the Wednesday. And it's not looking good for Pulse. They're sitting 0-18 map count.
Bad.
18.
I have to admit, though, I know we're kind of covering over matches that you guys might not necessarily have watched yet, but that we haven't recovered fully yet. But I mean, that's like one of the worst starts I've ever. Yeah, like over any league that's ever happened in Call of Duty, I can't think of a worse start. Like, they pretty much solidified their relegation, because they played 6 out of their possible 18 matches. So we're already a third way into the league, and they haven't even won a map, let alone come close to winning a series. And that says something to me. That's like alarm bells, panic. Now, I believe they let me just check this, because I believe they did make a roster change before the start of week 2 matches, so going into this. So I mean, you could argue they're maybe trying now to adapt. At least they're concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Like, at least they're concerned. And you can clearly see they're trying to make roster changes to benefit themselves, and maybe you can argue that they haven't fully kind of got their roles down and communication and chemistry, but it's almost like it's already too late for them. Like, I mean, every other team has picked up a league win, so yeah, it's just it's a struggle. And I mean, they've got to come into every match now knowing that they have to win, like regardless of the team.
It's like kind of, and I compare this to like starting off in school, for instance. It's like you haven't studied for like a crazy amount of time, and you're realizing the effects of that. Now that the exams are kind of coming around, especially with, I mean, 22 matches. I mean, there's a good amount of them, but 22 matches is 22 matches. Like, you've already lost a crazy amount. Like, you have, this is your whole point now of the season is trying to bring it back. It's not.
Yeah,
it completely turn things around, and good luck for the rest of the time.
Yeah, exactly. They're basically
gonna be the bottom four for a while, regardless if you keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, they've basically really got to rely. I mean, this is the thing, though. They've got to rely on like Giants, TCM, LDLC not doing well, but it's like they also have to rely to get out of the bottom four on a Vitality, a Splices, Infuse, and Excel, a Millennium, and Epsilon to do bad as well. And it's like they're teams that I just don't. They may have an off series like we saw in Fuse against Splice. They're not gonna literally completely drop out of the league and here have a space. You know, they're not gonna do that. So, yeah, it's worrying signs for Pulse. Just while we're talking about them. Coming into the second day, the Wednesday, they played LDLC, lost that 0-3 as well, as expected. Other than that, though, I think the two big matchups that I want to talk about are Epsilon Splice, where Splice won 3-2, absolutely huge.
That's another thing, man. Like, they're just on top right now.
Yeah, exactly. They beat Infuse. They would have had a lot of confidence going into that game against Epsilon, so you can completely understand why that was the result. And the other result, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be biased, but XL 3-0 and Infuse, I think
that's a big game. Yeah, I don't think there's any bias in that. I mean,
and it wasn't even close. That was the thing. Like, Infuse, I think, just had an off couple of days. But yeah, I mean, we'll come on to obviously talk about the matches that are going on right now next week. But this week, they definitely bounced back, it's fair to say. But last week, I feel like they just had an off week, but they put them behind them. Now that they're going to move forward and obviously, hopefully, contend for the #1 spot in the league going into playoffs.
Exactly. And I'm taking a look at some of these other games. Like you mentioned, Splice taking on Epsilon. XL taking on Infused. Millennium 3-0 with Giants. Not really that big of a deal either. TCM beating Vitality. I mean, honestly, I think it's not crazy, but I think honestly a lot of people might have been favoring Vitality to win that game. Either way you look at it, you know, TCM kind of walking away with the victory, and LDLC taking out Pulse in a 3-0. You know, the struggling LDLC team able to take out Pulse yet again, and Pulse remains, like we mentioned earlier, mapless. Not just series-less, but they haven't won a series, but mapless, but they haven't even got a map on the board in a best of 5 yet. It's not
looking good. Just while we're kind of talking about that matchup, I believe, obviously, I talk about how the teams I think will be secured and going to playoffs. I think if there are going to be two teams that are going to contend Vitality, that I think will be that team on the border, it's definitely LDLC and TCM. They're the two teams in my mind that have shown the most kind of competitiveness against some of these higher teams. I mean, looking at records right now, as when we're recording this, LDLC have a 10-10 map record, whereas Vitality have a 11-10. And in all fairness, Vitality, LDLC are both tied 3-3 in terms of records. So it's literally going to be. I mean, there's going to be some teams like Pulse and maybe Giants that we know for sure they're going to be down and out. But come week 8, week 9, there's going to be a bit of a battle for relegation, I feel.
Absolutely, and you know, we'll see how it does. LDLC kind of making a little bit of strides here and there, but I mean, I hate to like kind of constantly just throw daggers at Pulse, but it's just not happening.
Yeah, I love what Quicker tweeted out today. He tweeted out RI Pulse instead of RIP. It's just a bit like but that pretty much wraps up last week the CWL. I mean, ANZ wise. Just to quickly
we can go over them really quickly if you want to.
So, Immunity beat XL5 and Platonics My Freak beat XL5 as well. So they're in XL5 are in a similar situation to Pulse being 0-4 after week 2. Platonics My Freak also beat Tatum Mines, a team that's kind of contending around the top. So they're currently 2-0 in week 2 as a wild twin just comes in my room. I don't know what he's eating, but anyway, back to what I was talking about. So there wasn't really too many surprises looking at it. Platonics Mindfreak went 2-0. Orbit went 2-0. Orbit are really surprising because they're top of the leaderboard, haven't lost yet. And looking at the roster, I think you're familiar with a couple of these players, but I'm not really familiar with
Orbit was the old, they were the, what was that team called? Because Orbit picked up this roster. They didn't originally qualify, right?
Orbit, Orbit was originally Avidity.
Was it Avidity?
Yeah, looking at it, it's Avidity.
Okay.
It wasn't your favorite team, Skyfire.
Oh, darn it. Man, I was so mad when they kind of, not that they've kind of crashed their brand or anything, but I don't think they actually have a Twitter anymore and stuff like that. I'm kind of
they probably were like, yeah, let's just take the money, get out of here. No offense if that isn't the case, but yeah, I mean, we're not too familiar obviously with ANZ. The time zone doesn't really enable us to watch ANZ, but I would definitely say we're both pretty surprised with how Orbit are doing, considering Mindfreak have always been the dominant team in ANZ.
Of course. Yeah, it's like, I think right now, as far as what I've kind of learned is like Chiefs are really good, Mindfreak, Immunity, and also now Orbit, which is kind of like a little bit of a surprise. And also Tainted Minds. I mean, it kind of seems like there are a top 4 teams. Like I think in the ANZ more than any others where we've seen a crazy amount of 3-0s. I think in every game for week 1, it was all 3-0s. I don't think there was one game that wasn't.
It was. Goalie must have been sitting there like celebrating, going, yes.
And so in crazy games, and I'm not trying to cover over week 1, but the first game was Orbit who 3-0'd Mindfreak.
Yeah,
he was like,
and I was like, wait, what?
At the time, yeah. So I think that was one of the games that everyone was kind of like, you know, were the good teams just playing the bad teams? Well, not necessarily. It was, I mean, it just happened to be 3-0s in general. Not really looking at a week 2 a little bit here, and Orbit ended up beating Chiefs 3-2, so that kind of was a close game as well. And Tainted Minds ended up taking out AES, who apparently is also a very good Australian team, you know, in their own regard. And another game 5. So 3 straight game 5s in the end for week 2 for the ANZ. Immunity also taking out Planetronics Envy in a 3-2 fashion. And obviously for week 3, I don't think we're actually going to be doing a recap for the ANZ because I believe it is currently Australia Day.
Yeah.
Australia weekend. I mean, I'm not really sure. I just know
weekend, yeah. They're so far in front of us, it's already the weekend. No, yeah, I believe it is Australia Day because where I'm a TA in a school, and one of the teachers is formerly from Australia, and she's like, it's Australia Day, and we're like, we don't really celebrate that.
We don't really care.
We're sorry, we don't really celebrate. But yeah, so I believe matches will reschedule next week, and we'll give you obviously predictions going into that because we know so much about ANZ, obviously.
We do.
Moving aside,
everyone was good, everyone was bad. That's all I really said.
Yeah, exactly. Moving aside from the CWL though, I think we're going to move on to talk about MES that happened last weekend. Basically, we're only gonna recap it very briefly because I made a video about it talking about how there was only 12 teams that attended.
Yeah, I watched your video. Yeah, and I didn't even know that. I thought there was like, I figured regular event. I didn't think really any pro teams were going, but when I heard you say the word 12 teams, that was like, whoop, like
that's bad on a UK scale, and the UK scene is not anywhere near developed as much as the NA scene. So for that to happen, I mean, I think they really did muck up in the sense of having it on Xbox, and I know on the Monday straight after MES, they tweeted out saying all events now will be on PlayStation. Definitely the right move. They've obviously just had a bit of a blip, it's fair to say, but for 12 teams to only attend, that's really bad attendance for a LAN event, and I'm kind of frustrated because MES made, I think we can both agree, a very big impact in AW. They had 3 very successful events, and you know, towards the end of it, it was, you know, looking like they were kind of taking the route that UMG took in their early days. So for them to then kind of basically go back an evolution is like, what are they doing? But
was it only an Xbox tournament? Like, do they have any PS4s?
So the original, from, I don't know how legitimate this is, but or true, shall I say? But from my understanding, it was originally just Xbox, and they were like, you can bring an adapter if you have a PS4 controller. But by the way, adapters have a latency and a lag time, so and millisecond response. So that's not really going to be great anyway. Then later they said it would be Xbox and PS4, I think because they knew that numbers were down. So they were like, hey, let's just give, like, hopefully the best opportunity for the most amount of teams to attend. Didn't end up happening, and I believe it ended up going ahead on Xbox, I think.
You can't, I don't know what I mean, they might have just made a deal with that early on and just been set in their ways.
Yeah.
I mean, when the entire scene is PS4 based, like, I can understand in some ways because we've kind of realized the issue with kind of transitioning between the Xbox One and the PS4.
I was going to say exactly that.
like game battles, I know because I've cast on game battles occasionally. I mean, they're not getting hardly any the same numbers because people are still transitioning from Xbox One to PS4. I mean, it's a major price difference.
It's like old gen to new gen. There was that transition period, and I think MES have just lost out in the sense of they've obviously got an abundance of Xbox. They're like, hey, let's just try and do an Xbox event and, you know, give the option, obviously, for them to use PS4 controllers because the majority of the scene even has switched over. But sadly, this has kind of bit them back in the bum. And as a result, they just had a poor turnout. So, yeah, it's kind of damaged the brand, I'd say.
Oh, for sure. They took. I mean, especially with that main. I think the main issue with how their kind of news story got out there wasn't the fact that there was an event for them. It was the fact that they had an event and it was very underwhelming. I think as well, and that definitely deterred all the pro teams. I guarantee there would have been at least a couple. I think we've seen like TK. I think Elevate and Rise have gone to tournaments in the past.
Yeah, 100%. I made
being on Xbox was just like an eraser, like, no, we're not, this is the event.
Nope. I made this point in the video. You know, we've seen Envy, TK, Elevate, Epsilon back when they had a roster in NA all attend MES events. That's absolutely great exposure. That's really great to see some of the top teams from North America attend, and top teams in the world, if it be it. And like you said, I think that them putting it on Xbox was just a massive from every pro player. Also the fact that I don't really know if 10K is a big enough prize pool to even see pro teams attend. I think we're at the point in North America where if you're not posting a prize pool of 50K or above, you're not going to see like every pro team attend. That's how I feel, because I think rightfully so though, because at the end of the day, the scene is evolving more and more and more, and there's more money being pumped in. So what was back in Black Ops 2, you know, 20K at LAN, like, that was like, oh my god, there's 10K for a Call of Duty event. Now that's like, what? Why isn't the prize pool bigger?
I'm glad you bring that. It's kind of like a transition period, like over what, 3 years we've made the transition of 10K being a major to now that being like not even consideration.
100K, like UMG Carolina, we don't even recognize as like an amazing prize pool, because we know the money that Activision and Treyarch are pumping in, and PlayStation as well. Obviously, the CWL event happening at UMG Carolina that we'll come to talk about is obviously 100K, but like compared to what COD Champs and the season finals are going to be, it's insignificant, really.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's just kind of funny, like how quickly, like, you know, in a way we're kind of getting spoiled in a sense. Like you think, you know, a couple of years ago, in the same way, it's just like constantly growing, which I think is fantastic.
It's good. So. Don't get me wrong, but it's like the kind of the expectations, the expectation of players in orgs is obviously rising. What is just that's just what comes over time. But just to let you know, MES Onslaught did end up winning, with Most Wanted coming second and Regency coming third. Not really sure of the breakdown in terms of the prize pool, but it was 10K. I believe that 10K still went ahead from my understanding. So you could probably expect like 60% to Onslaught, 30% to Most Wanted, then like 10% to Regency, something like that. But definitely, I think they'll learn their lesson going forward. I think we can both agree. Yeah.
Especially that one tweet of them saying all of our tournaments will be on PS4.
We're not doing that again. It's like we get the message. We mucked up. Please forgive us, and hopefully the community will. But moving on from that, I think we're going to talk a little bit about some recent roster changes that we both have made videos and talked about. I think we'll start off with the one that isn't in the CWL. What is the C9 roster? If you want to go ahead. Yeah.
So basically, Cloud9. I think maybe. It's been like a couple of weeks. So they had their old roster, which is consisting of like Mochilla, Silly, Burnsoff, and Merc. Burnsoff and Merc basically after, because they tried to qualify online, which they ended up not being able to do. So I think they were in the final qualifying match where they ended up losing to Dream Team in I think like game 5. So it was like really close for them. Cloud9 realized, you know, we're losing to the DT, and you kind of look at DT now and you say, well, those guys are at the very bottom of the league. Can you imagine who a team that lost to them would do in the league?
Yeah, precisely.
I think Cloud9 in a sense realized that, but off the bat, Burnsoff and Merc definitely left that team to kind of form a new roster, and that left Silly and Mochilla to kind of find two, which ended up not happening. I've actually talked to Silly.
Yeah.
And I actually asked him what was really going on with the C9 roster, because he had actually tweeted out that he needs to change his @ Obviously, his @ on Twitter is C9Silly.
Yeah. I mean, he just got verified as well, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, that was like the only thing that kind of got out of the entire thing. But he basically just said that he just really didn't want to play with Mochilla, didn't really want to do that. So I think it was honestly not a team of 2 looking for 2. I think it was 2 players looking for 3. Like whoever gets a roster kind of outs the other in a sense. So obviously that roster did kind of, I think in a sense, Cloud9 basically swept that off the table and picked up a new group of guys. who is now, and this is very surprising to a lot of people, and myself included, the new roster of Accuracy, Sinful, Killa, and Khalifa. Now, I want to ask you, Tommy, because, I mean, in a way, I mean, you know the NA scene a lot, but do you know a whole lot about any of these players regardless?
Well, this is the thing, because if anyone follows my personal YouTube channel and the 50 Bomb, Alex, who I do it with, is a massive fan of Khalifa, and we always talk about it. How when he was on Threes Up and all sorts, we always talk about it. And he is a big talent, and hopefully, you know, this is his year to break through, like we saw in AW with many young players. The expression I made in my video was very surprised with the kind of lineup, because I don't associate these players with each other. That's the kind of thing. Like, I don't know if they've teamed together before. I didn't kind of research it in that depth to see, looking at going back Call of Duty titles, but it's such a bizarre roster. The only thing I can think of is kind of they made the best out of a worst case scenario, because obviously every other player that is relevant is obviously in contract in a CWL roster. So I kind of feel they just kind of like, well, we got this player, this player, this player. But then saying that, why is Mochilla and Silly, like, why did the entire, obviously Burns and Merc went off to Liquid. That's understandable. Why did they get rid of Mochilla and Silly? And Mochilla back in AW was a pretty decent player, to say the least. That's what I don't understand. I think maybe if they kept at least one of those players, it would have made a little bit more sense and then bring on players that they've played with before.
I think, and this is just, I mean, this is speculation. I have no idea. I mean, what Cloud9 was kind of, not to be rude, like, I have no idea what they were thinking, but I mean, just getting in the minds of them, I'm not sure what their game plan really was. But I mean, like, Silly's pretty good. He's not like, I'm not saying that Silly isn't talented, but he's not like a player where I immediately get rid of an entire team. I think what Cloud9 vision is that, hey, these guys have been playing for a little bit, because this actual roster, if anyone who's watching this right now has been watching Killa's stream, these guys have been playing with each other. They've kind of substitute players out and in. So these guys have been playing with a little bit of time.
So they probably have a good representation.
Kind of ruin that bond. I don't think they really wanted to ruin that bond for someone like Silly or someone like Mochilla. I think Mochilla is really talented, but from what I've heard, he's kind of hard to work with. And that's just what players have said. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Yeah.
And maybe the decision of trying to keep a roster together, that was their goal.
Chemistry is a big factor. You've got to play these teams like 8 to 10 hours a day potentially. If you can't get on with someone, that's going to drive you insane. And it's like living with someone effectively. But I mean, by what you've said, that completely makes sense. If they've been playing with each other and trialing rosters like what we've seen other teams do in the past, 100% go with this roster. If they feel like it's going to work, no one knows better than themselves how it's going to work. So if they feel like it's going to work, go with it. But the bigger kind of dilemma that I brought up, and it involves Team Liquid as well, is the fact that they're not in the CWL. Them not being in the COD World League just makes them irrelevant, plain and simple. Yes, they'll obviously feature at some LAN events, but like they will have no presence, and it's going to be a massive struggle in terms of exposure and just if you're not in the CWL, it's like you could be considered an amateur.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's kind of like the issue right now. I think honestly, like, in my opinion, like, Team Liquid's still a pro team. I think honestly this Cloud9 roster is still considered a pro team, but basically to the naked eye, you assume that everyone who's in the Call of Duty World League is a pro. Everyone who's not isn't technically a pro, and that's just like a sad thing. But it's also kind of like, it shows how important the Call of Duty World League is. But one thing that I want to mention as well that I thought was good from Cloud9 in the release, because they actually posted an article on Twitter. That's kind of how it was released, which I thought was really well done. They mentioned that their main goal with this roster is to compete at UMG South Carolina to get Challenger Division points, because UMG South Carolina is obviously the main title is the Challenger Division, which for those who may not know, I'm not sure exactly how the points break down, how many points you get for certain
it's
things.
A bit of mystery still, I think.
Right. But as far as I know, basically the top 4 teams, as far as points go from the UMG, or not from UMG, what am I saying? The top 4 just in general out of Challenger points basically get put in a relegation tournament against the bottom 4 teams from Stage 1 or Season 1 for the NA Pro League or the World League, I guess you could say. I'm not sure it works for EU and ANZ exactly.
I think it's roughly the same, because bottom 4 from ANZ and EU both get relegated as well. Oh, wow. So I presume it's the same.
That's kind of rough.
Just
then.
adding
to a bigger impact.
Yeah, exactly. Just adding to what you said, I 100%. We both know why C9 are doing this. Obviously, trying to prepare themselves with the best roster possible going into UMG Carolina. Sorry, because obviously none of the teams that in the CWL, like none of them can earn Challenger points. So C9, their biggest rivalry right now is probably Team Liquid.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like looking at it. But the ever so yeah, I would honestly be surprised to see both Team Liquid and C9 not be two of the teams that contend to get into Season 2 or Stage 2 of the CWL. But in saying that, they're going to go up against heavy competition of teams that are already in the CWL. And you brought it to light. If C9 lost to DT and DT are bottom of the pack, yes, they've made a roster change, but they've got a lot to they've got to really improve and perform and show us that they have what it takes to be in the CWL and not just be a team that is going to qualify and end up getting relegated again.
Exactly. And I think another thing to add on to, obviously what they're kind of fighting for at the current time and being, as I believe the basically how this is going to line up. This is what I heard from Burns the other day. I was actually in the stream and I asked him, and this is what he said. As far as he knows, basically, like I said, the top 4 teams from Challenger points, which is obviously going to these events, winning the events, how well you place is basically how many points you earn.
Yeah.
And basically the top 4 points, or the top 4 teams with points as far as Challenger points go, obviously face the bottom 4 teams in the league. From either region as well. And I believe that they only play, so I'm not sure if it's like the top team faces the worst team, the top team out of Challenger points faces the worst team out of the regular league, and so on and so forth.
You would probably, it's either going to be like that, or it's logically got to be, because obviously the team that comes
I would think so.
9th is obviously clearly better than 10th, 11th, 12th in the league, and obviously they're better.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, that's logically the way it should go. I'm a bit annoyed. I don't know about you, about how kind of unclear Activision and just the CWL has been in general, the Challenger division.
Yeah. It's been really blurry. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I mean it's just really blurry because this is what Burns told me, and we don't know if this is true or not, but we're like kind of on the edge of this is what we think. Yeah, is that whenever those teams play, they play in one best of 7 to decide who gets in the league. It's not a tournament.
Oh,
it's not a tournament. It
is literally one matchup.
It's one matchup. It's the best of 7. Now, that's rumored. That's not exactly.
In a way, I kind of like that. That's kind of different.
I like it, but it's like
that's make or break.
The amount of impact that series actually has, I don't think should be decided over one matchup. I think, like, for instance, let's say this. All the hard work that Team Liquid and that C9 are doing right now, Onslaught, Most Wanted,
comes down to one match.
Comes down to one game. If you don't perform in that game, all of that work.
That's news to me.
0. Yeah. Means absolutely nothing. And that's why I think in some cases there should be at least maybe like a double elimination or something like that.
Yeah.
Have it played on land. I mean, you could have a little bit of a prize pool, or not even a prize pool. Just invite these teams out. Even go to the MLG arena where we've had
throw money at them. Just throw money at them.
And I really hope it's not online. I think that would.
Oh, no. I think Activision are smart enough to realize like how that played out for Season 2.
You think though? I mean, you'd think that. But...
Well, yeah, that's true actually. I'm sure with the staff that are at ESL and like Ron and co that have been at MLG and witnessed what happened, they would be stupid to like not like raise a hand and just be like, hang on a minute, why is this online? Why is it not online? Especially with the studios and everything, the budget and everything that CWL has had so far. It'd be a massive shock if it did happen. But
honestly, I don't know if it'll be online, because if they're only playing 4 games, technically 4 best of 7s, is that enough to even invite teams to go out there?
It would just be a one-day event, wouldn't it?
I don't know if they even want to do that. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, the way you got to look at it, like the ESL studios that they've got and what they use, they're not going anywhere. The casters, at least for Europe and North America, not sure about ANZ, like live in locally now. So like all they've got to do is fly the players out. That's all they've literally got to do.
I mean, that's all.
I mean, if they want to do it, I think for the sake of,
I hope so. I mean, for the matches, I hope that they do that. I'm just saying from like a logical perspective. Yeah. We only have 4 matches. Do we invite these players out here logically as far as money goes? I mean, do we not waste our money? Yeah. But send these guys out here to play 4 games that'll probably last, maybe half a day or something like that? I mean, maybe even a full day. Kind of depends on how long the matches will go. Yeah. It's a best of 7 as well, which I'm glad it's not just a best of 5, thank God, or even a best of 3, which I would literally go crazy over. But, I mean, I think there should be some type of double elimination. I know it's only 8 teams, but you can form a bracket that way. But I mean, it's 100%. Just, I think it's honestly kind of absurd in some cases.
Well, either way, we don't know obviously 100%. If it does happen, we'll obviously speak about it. You can give your opinions as well down in the YouTube comments or when we live stream it. But moving aside from roster changes, just to last 2 things that are in terms of roster changes. A European one, Zerg is actually being released from TCM and will be replaced by
Sonny
B.
I thought Zerg was playing really well. As far as like watching some of the matches.
Well, the thing is, the way I look at it, TCM after week 2 were 1-3. That obviously in their mind said, look, we're not performing to the caliber we need to. We're going to get relegated if we continue doing it. In their personal opinions, they saw Zerg as the player. I've heard, similar to what you've heard about Machilla, that he can sometimes be a bit of a handful. Not sure entirely how true that is, but obviously that was the decision made. And they've got rid of him, picked up Sunny B. Sunny B actually tried to qualify with Orbit. I think he got to a round or two before qualification. So he's more than capable of filling his boots. But the other bigger problem of making roster changes mid-league is adapting. Where does he fill in? Communication, chemistry, they're the biggest things that really I'm looking for. But we'll have to wait and see if it pays off. I think, as I said, TCM and LDLC and Vitali are going to be the three teams, in my opinion, that are going to be battling for not getting relegated.
Yeah, well, we'll see if the roster change kind of works out for them. It just kind of caught me off guard, I guess. I mean, I thought Zerg was a really good addition, but I mean, obviously, maybe this will be something that they're looking forward to. And obviously, looking at it from an outside perspective, you don't know what's going on in the call. You don't know how the communication's going.
Yeah.
The ability to practice is something that we don't get to see all the time. And also, I don't know if we want to talk about this for sure or not, but also question mark.
Yeah. We kind of touched on it, didn't we?
We were kind of just waiting to mention this. We don't really want to spoil it.
Do we say it now? Yeah.
I think we should say it. I think we should say
it now, yeah.
I'll let you say it.
Okay, so we both knew this because I think the CWL schedule kind of leaked it. But officially, we can now say that question mark is now Rush Esports. It's a new organization. It's actually, I think, co-founded and co-owned by Proofy as well as some investors. So it's exciting times for him. First time actually being properly affiliated with an org and having an investment and being, an owner of it. So really good stuff. But nothing changes. The roster is still exactly the same as what it was before when it was question mark, but it does put the rumours to bed and the kind of speculation about, is this roster going to be Team Solo Mid or is it going to be another team entering? But nope, it's going to be a completely new roster, what is something quite interesting, and I'm looking forward. Obviously, they're a team that, again, is going to be, I think, on the verge of relegation potentially, so with that being said, if they get relegated and then don't requalify, it could be a very short period of us knowing Rush Esports. But at the same time, they could do really big things. And looking at some of their tweets, they're looking to expand into some other esports as well.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it was a major surprise to me coming from Rush because I know they did receive a lot of offers on their roster. And for Proofy to kind of be like, no, I'm not doing this. We're actually going to kind of go with my own kind of organization, I guess you could say, which is obviously new, and I think this is a good at least step for Proofy in a way.
It's smart because he can't be screwed over by his own org because he is the org.
It's smart, but in a way, realistically, out of the players that they do have, not getting any hate to his teammates, I think Colchin has been playing very, very, very well as well as Sweets and Pac-Man in that regard. But I don't think that Proofy would necessarily be the first target as far as their roster goes, and obviously something to keep in mind is that you can only make you have to have at least two players who were
existing
on that original that roster that didn't end up qualifying. So at least two of those players who are on current roster of Rush, have to be on the team. And I think, honestly, Proofy would most likely be one of those players. But I know they did receive a lot of offers. Some of the offers did involve them making roster changes, which I don't think they really wanted to do, or they're at least considering it and obviously kind of denied those. So, either way you look at it, I think this is a good step in some ways. While I'm not a fan necessarily of the fact that we don't get to see a major organization be involved or other organizations that weren't previously involved.
At the same time, it's something different. It's hopefully the start of an organization that's going to come up through Call of Duty and be prevalent across loads of different esports, and we can say that all started in Call of Duty rather than it always being all these other big orgs coming in that started in CS, Dota, LoL, whatever it be. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, the biggest problem they've got at the moment is trying to get sponsors and get kind of staff on board and stuff, but it sounds like it's been in the pipe work for a while. As I say, it got put mistakenly in the schedule, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, so obviously it's been prepped for the last probably month or so, and it's only now that they've obviously announced it. So I don't know, I'm excited for this, but with that, there's really not much else to add. We'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens if they go into other esports, etc.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know. There's not really much else to say about it. I think like we mentioned earlier, I mean, this is a good step for Rush in some ways. We'll see how the new organization does. Yeah. And regardless of who we get, at least we have a new Call of Duty organization who, and I'm kind of glad. I'm getting tired of saying the word question mark for thumbnails and stuff. I mean, I don't know whether to put the name question mark or put an actual question mark.
It makes more sense to actually type out question mark, because if you just put like question mark makes a roster change, it just looks like makes a roster change, and it just looks like you put a question mark in there by mistake. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up like the news though. I think just before we kind of round the show out, we're going to talk briefly on this TheSTiKSLive, because looking at tweets, it looks like it's going to be patched. As of recording this, it hasn't. And I made a video about it. I think you made a video about it. Fox made a video about it. There was a load of people that made a video about it, basically. Go and watch them, by the way. In my video, at least, there was a lot of like conversation sparking in the comments about people disagreeing, people agreeing, loads of different things. What's always good, because obviously it shows that people have an opinion. But what is your personal view on it, Landon, in terms of, we're 2.5 months into the game. Is it the right moment to get rid of it? Now, they did talk about it affecting game mechanics. If that's the case, then surely it should be.
Oh, yeah. I think no matter what, I mean, from what they've said, it was a bug in the game, not meant to be there. And honestly, I'm not really sure how you have a bug in the game which allows you to do that, but I'm not a developer, so I have no idea. But
we don't know. It's obviously something behind the scenes that we don't visually see, but it's there.
Right. And honestly, like, as far as the G-Slide goes, and first of all, I want to say this. I like the idea of having something in the game which requires you to use some sort of skill where not all players can do it. I mean, there's some people who still can't do it exactly. I think if you practice enough, if you know the movement, you can do it.
Can I just interject here? In my video, people were like, oh, it's not a skill. Everyone can perform it. By definition, a skill is something that you can do that someone else can't. Or you can do more consistently
to get better than someone else.
Yeah, or you can do more consistently. In my mind, it's a skill, because I don't think even the best pro players, the best players in BO3 even, can perform it every single time. There's gonna be like, I reckon, the best someone can probably do it is maybe 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Now, the differentiation and what defines it as a skill is the fact that there's gonna be other players that can only maybe perform it 4 out of 10 times. That is clearly a skill. You're seeing a defined skill gap between the best and the worst players, regardless. So in that sense, it is a skill. And I think it's going to be a shame to see it go. But I do understand if it's affecting game mechanics, it should go. I also understand that it does make S&D a bit of a pain in the ass, because obviously if you hit every G-slide, you can get to certain positions faster than the other team. And if they do muck up their G-slides, it's obviously a skill that it can screw over a team and potentially favour the offense side a lot more when it should have favoured the defense side.
Exactly. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I mean, like, search and destroy, hardpoint. I think honestly, every game type gets affected by it.
Yeah.
But I think search and destroy especially, and I know this game is very fast paced. I'm not trying to go off topic here, but I mean, this game is super fast paced, and honestly, like, the G-Slide makes this game so much more random. Like, you have no idea when things are happening. The reason why this team won on offense necessarily shouldn't have happened because of the fact of G-Slide.
Yeah.
Getting to a certain point. I mean, honestly, the G-Slide makes or breaks, and I guarantee certain games have been decided by the G-Slide. One in particular was, I believe, a CTF between Cole and someone else. I just know it was on Stronghold CTF, and they literally had like a point, like a second left, and Miracles narrowly is able to G-Slide, and he scores it with like 0.1.
Yeah, I heard about this. The
G-Slide's not in the game. I mean, they lost. They lost that game, and that's
the reality.
That would have sent to a game 5, obviously, because they are playing on CTF, but. I mean, that was just honestly, at least
it does decide the result. That is the bigger prevalent factor, and because of that, but at the same time, like, you can argue that with the G-slide in the game, he can still potentially miss that G-slide and not score.
Yeah, but the fact that it's there in general though is the issue. Like, the fact that someone can win a game when you're not supposed to win the game, it's like the fact that
you're not supposed to be able to get there, but you can.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that they're winning a game
at the same time, what I will say is there has been a lot of times that I've seen where people muck up their G-slide and as a result get killed.
Yeah,
that's what I will say.
I'd say, like, as far as like that goes, I think like the scale is definitely a lot higher in the fact that people who have performed G-slides to win gunfights. Obviously, like you said, like, there's going to be issues where you do the G-slide and it first so happens that the timing just works out and you get killed by your G-sliding, or the fact that you mess up a G-slide and then that kind of screws you up because your movement's a little bit slower. But I think just in general, how I mean, even the pros that I've talked to, some pros want to keep it because they feel like they're really good at it, and because maybe they feel less confident if the G Slide's not in the game. From like a general consensus, I think a lot of people agree. Well, just agree in general that the fact that G Slide needs to be out of the game, it's not supposed to be here, and I think you should be winning games or having an advantage over something that's not really supposed to be there in the first place. Now, if the G Slide was supposed to be in the game, I mean, hey, it's fair game. You play with it. It's your thing. But I've also, and I want to mention this as well because this is even more crazy. There was a video released by Drifter the other day, and it was known as the F Slide, and I was like, what in the world? Like, don't even say this.
No way.
It's similar to a G Slide, but it actually involves a wall. So, for instance, if you're trying to wall run, if you like do a certain little thing, and honestly, I don't think it really speeds up hardly anything at all. I don't think it'll be an issue. But basically, how it works is that you stand next to a wall. You do some type of movement. I haven't understood it yet, but how it works is that you literally like it's like a glitch. Like your legs aren't really moving,
right?
But you're basically like remaining still, but you're moving across the wall super fast. Like you're like sliding off the wall really fast, which in some cases will help you. Like if players can develop this really easily, I mean, you can see players flying through a bomb off of going on a wall run, but still it's an issue, and they have to fix these things. And honestly,
yeah.
And obviously every game's not going to be perfect, but you have to realize these things in the game and get rid of them as fast as possible. But I think the G Slide has kind of been an issue because of how easy it is to do. Like it's a major point in movement, so I don't think that they can just like remove it out of the game. I think they have to like kind of clear a number of different things to kind of
logically, in my mind, I mean, I think a lot of people disagreed with me when I said this in my video. I said the logical perception of the G Slide is that the majority of people probably can't perform it because the majority of people are casual players.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
a lot of people brought this up and said that you can perform the G Slide without playing Claw and without playing Scuff. That may be that may be the case, but it's definitely a lot easier to perform it with a Scuff and a playing Claw. So for that factor, and for the factor that obviously most people that play Call of Duty are casual and don't probably search YouTube videos of how to, you know, perform like secret things or whatever you want to call it. So from that sense, you can kind of see it from just like a game as a general, not looking at just the esports section of it. And the ever more bigger factor is the fact that if it is breaking game mechanics, then they should get rid of it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But for the sake of trying to keep this show around an hour, I think we're going to move on. Let us know, obviously, down in the YouTube comments what you think. I know that everyone's got an opinion, so let us know and we'll see what everyone has to say. Just before we give our little outros and shout out Juff, Scuff and G Fuel. I don't know what happened there. Juff is apparently a new sponsor of ours for always supporting us in what we do. Pacific Alliance or Perfect Alliance.
Pacific. Can
I just say this? For the life of me, I don't know why, but I always say Pacific.
It's good, man. It's fine.
That's not even.
The word Pacific Alliance sounds very like calming to me. Like the word Pacific, just in general, the ocean.
Yeah.
Makes me calm.
But either way, Perfect Alliance have got a league starting. Landon will be casting it. Do tell us more.
So basically what this is, it is obviously like a regular league. It's basically comprised of teams who either are underage or just aren't really they're not talented, but they just weren't at the same skill level at the people that ended up qualifying. And I'm not quite sure here to plug my own thing or anything like that. I'm just casting for them because it's something to do. I like the way they're structuring it. It seems to be very, very useful as well. But they actually do have some talented teams. I believe it is 12 teams overall. Let me actually count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, it's a 10 team. I'm sorry. I thought it was 12. It's 10. Either way, how it works is that there was a number of different qualifiers. They've had online qualifiers. There have been some issues, like people saying that they didn't run it right. Honestly, it's just people complaining that they didn't qualify. And there were also some issues with like game-changing settings and stuff. But either way, I think it's honestly a really good thing for the amateur players. The whole thing of Perfect Alliance, from what I've learned, from what I've seen with their whole, initializing of stuff, is that they want to make, the unknown get known in a sense. And I think honestly, this is a great way. They have a very good price.
It's a platform for like elevating you into competing at LAN.
This is just practice for them. I mean, this is practice in a way where players can, in some ways, earn a lot of skill. Like teams like Onslaught, Fatal Ambition, Lethal Gaming, Vanquish, Jester, EasyG. So I mean, very well known underage teams or just very well-known teams who aren't as good as pros are competing in this, and I think they're getting a lot of practice because I mean you're basically practicing for UMG events if you're old enough, or MLG events if they do common stuff. So I think honestly it's a good prize pool. You get some gear out of it. I think the first place gets to win like 4 free Razer headsets of their choice. So I mean, there's good stuff. There's good stuff to kind of help these guys improve, and honestly, I don't think it really hurts anyone. I think that's honestly just a positive thing, and
it's a good way to get into competitive, and it's definitely worth watching, because these teams could potentially be in a couple of years' times some of the best players in Call of Duty. So
there are some really, really talented people that I've been able to watch who I think honestly could either be like a substitute for some of these teams, or honestly even compete for some of these rosters.
There we go then.
With how talented they are. So
it's definitely worth watching. I think it's twitch.tv/perfect alliance.
I think it's twitch.tv/PA_organization.
Okay, there we go. Either way, you'll be tweeting out about it, and
I think that it'll be like 2 times a week. I don't know why they're doing it on the night of Call of Duty World League, but hey, just if you guys ever have time, I might be casting. Feel free to kind of stop by. Yeah. It's always a fun time.
Exactly. Well, we've just gone over an hour, but I'll allow it. I think we've been pretty good with our time this week. But yeah, that pretty much ends out this week's show. It's weird not it being live and not
I kind of liked it though. It was kind of like refreshing.
It's weird though not having a chat to talk to, and just I miss that. But comment down below in the YouTube comments. I know both of us will watch back the video in a day or so and see what people have put and respond to, etc. So let us know. We should be back. I'm trying to promise, but at the same time I don't want anything to happen, but we should be back to the usual next week. We've been, I think, a little infrequent, but we've been trying to, I think, sort things out behind the scenes that people don't know about. But we've, I think, come to a point where we know what we're doing. We're just getting on with it. So check us out next week, obviously. Twitch.tv/TheSTiKSLive. Thank you as always to G Fuel and Scuff for always supporting what we do. We really do appreciate it. And thanks, obviously, Scuff recently we did a giveaway with them. So that's really, really awesome stuff. But yeah, that pretty much does it. Landon, any last words? You can do your outro now.
All right. Well, guys, been your dude, your bro, your pal, your man, your ally on the internet. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, actually, on the VOD. Not in the stream. Say that.
We're giving love to YouTube.
I am, but thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I know, like we said, like what Tommy's kind of said, is we've had some issues, switching between who we want to be on the show, the time for the show, and so on and so forth. But we're finally back in it. We do apologize, and either way, people have been negative, but they've also been very positive. And honestly, either of those comments, more specifically, the obviously positive ones, have more motivated us. But we do appreciate people give their opinion. We don't like this, we do like this. It helps us.
Yeah, we like opinion. We're not arrogant enough to know that things are perfect, etc. There's gonna be
there's gonna be times where we probably said something incorrect on the show, and someone says, "Why didn't you know this?" Well,
that's normally when goalie's here in our ear going, "That's wrong," and we're like, "Oh, yeah." But we don't have him today, so if we did say something wrong, let us know, and obviously give us your opinions to do with the CWL, the G-Slide, challenge division points, and the potential of if playoffs are going to be literally just one match, make or break, because that's going to be pretty much awesome. But we've had a really good time, and we'll see you next week, obviously, for the live stream. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Tommy. Socials and everything will be down below. Follow us, check us out, whatever, and we'll see you next week for a live show on Monday. Goodbye.